Shalom, giving all praises to Yahweh Bashim Shai, and double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone. Make Yahweh Bashim Shai's peace be bestowed unto you, hopefully elect. I'm your brother Yahweh Call from Great Millstone, Orlando. And this is just another one of those things. It could be something, it could be nothing, pursuant to the book of Sirach 5 and 15. All right, not being ignorant in any matter, whether it be small or great. But nevertheless, when I first heard about this, it immediately, right away, made me think about how this could lead to another war front. All right, the fact that Trump suggested, he put it out there as far as the idea of going back into Afghanistan. And like I said, that immediately, just made me think how that could lead to another war front of what we've seen initially with when America, Babylon went into Afghanistan the first time, right? It could be a pretty much a rerun of that all over again, which will require a military draft. All right. But I just looked this up on AI mode on Google. What could happen if Trump takes back Afghanistan? And just reading through this, it said reoccupying the Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan, as recently floated by Donald Trump, could have serious consequences, requiring a large military force and posing significant security risk. Yeah, because again, if this were to be the case, that would be a new war front. All right, that would mean troops, military equipment, and things of that nature, and that will put Babylon at risk of being attacked. All right, and things of that nature. So it says the idea which the Taliban have publicly rejected is not a full take back of Afghanistan, but in an attempt to regain the foothold. And this will be under the guise of, because if they were to, in fact, to go back into Afghanistan, the narrative that Trump pushes is to basically be closer to China. All right. That's the narrative, because of China. Because, pretty much when you look at the map, China, Afghanistan, it's pretty much right there. So that would be the excuse. All right. Basically being in sniffing around China's backyard, pretty much. But it says renewed conflict, reestablishing a military presence would likely be seen by the Taliban as a hostile act, potentially leading to a renewed fighting with U.S. forces in a reversal of the U.S. withdrawal. And like I said, that's immediately what I thought of when I first heard this. All right. It says strategic military risk with the Taliban in control or reoccupation would require more than 10,000 troops, advanced air defenses, and would make station personnel potential targets for attack. And the video that's floating around right now, brothers, elders doing videos on about this one Jake, he had his dream, basically Isaiah 4:1, a lot of men being killed off. All right. Like the scriptures say, women are going to become widows. Women are going to become without helpers and things of that nature. They're going to be dying in the wars. Matter of fact, let me grab that. Because we talk about the war that's going to happen outside of America, but there's going to be a lot of war taking place within America as well. So dealing with invasions, we've seen this whole narrative dealing with Biden's administration of these so-called illegal alien immigrants. All right. All these nations have been infiltrating America for years. All right. It didn't just start with Biden's administration. This is something that's been going on, these sleeper cells. Like the scripture say, I will fill thee with men as with caterpillars. All right. What do caterpillars do? They destroy the vegetation. All right. And as a part of America's crumbling, because America is crumbling from within, All right, they're blaming it specifically on Jakes. All right, you got these ICE protests, these ICE detention centers getting raided, or yeah, getting raided. All right, war is getting ready to break out here in Babylon on American soil. All right, as I always say, as the scriptures say, refer to America as the virgin daughter of Babylon, where America, the virgin, is about to get her virginity popped. All right, America's about to get her virginity popped. Second Edge 16. Just to make this point. Just bear with me. Matter of fact, second Edge 16, let's start at verse 18. The beginning of sorrows and great mournings. You know, America is getting ready to suffer great loss. These Americans, they're not used to being uncomfortable. They're not used to being without, but they're getting ready to suffer great loss. It says the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars. So that's the point. All right, the beginning of wars. War, you're going to have little skirmishes here and there. All right. You know, Esau, he sees the writing on the wall for the most part. And what is he doing? He's getting ready. He's gearing up. All right. He's getting ready to take his frustrations out somewhere on somebody. All right. And although you Jakes, you Israelites are going to be casualties of war. You know, you're just going to be in the crossfire. But Esau, he's getting ready to lash out. And this is why we're going to see, you know, these skirmishes between military, all right, whatever foreign entity of troops that they bring out here, you know, they bring over here, you know, they get ready to go at it. All right. But nevertheless, the point being that there's going to be all type of wars breaking out within America. All right. I'm going to jump down. In verse 33, it says, the virgin shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The woman shall mourn, having no husbands. The daughter shall mourn, having no helpers. Why is that? Because verse 34, in the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine. So you see, there will be a draft, a military draft. A lot of these, and I agree wholeheartedly with a lot of what the elders be saying. You know, as far as this military draft, hey, send these little YNs off, man. These little YNs and these broccoli heads. All right, you know, send these niggas off the war. You know, I wholeheartedly agree. But that it is going to be the case. All right, you know, Trump is opening up these new war fronts, you know, spreading his military too thin, which is all signs of going back to the ancient pagan Roman Empire, and one of several factors contributing to their downfall, you know, the spreading of the military. You see, and this could be another war front opened, all right, an old war front at that. But reading on, it says geopolitical tensions. Trump has tied the move to countering China's influence, but experts warn it could complicate relations with not only China, but also Russia and Iran. Humanitarian impact. A potential resumption of conflict would worsen the severe humanitarian crisis already faced by the Afghan people. Afghan refugee policy. A second Trump administration has been shown to be less open to protecting Afghan refugees, potentially putting many who fled the Taliban takeover in a shaky position regarding their residency status in the U.S. Because Esau doesn't give a damn. All right, he doesn't give two shits. Right. It says countering rivals. The primary publicity stated reason for wanting Bagram back is its strategic location near China, but experts warn that a base built for a past era of warfare is not likely to effectively counter current threats. And this is a part of Esau's pride. All right, here it is. You know, you have all these nations, in particular China and Russia, with these advanced technology, weaponry, military, and things of that nature. But Esau, he's so proud. You know, being that America's been on top for so long, and they don't feel the need to, for the most part, upgrade their technology, their military, and things of that nature. You know, so they use a lot of outdated, old shit. It says criticism of withdrawal. The move builds on Trump's prior criticisms of the chaotic U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan under the Biden administration. The Talibanian deal. This idea contradicts the U.S. Taliban deal negotiated during Trump's first term, which laid the groundwork for the full withdrawal of the U.S. forces. So, like I said, Esau, he doesn't give a damn. What treaty has he ever kept? Right? What covenant has he ever honored? You see? So, like I said, man, you know, this could be, it'll be a whole new shit show if they decide to, in fact, go back into Afghanistan. All right? It will be a whole new war front, military draft. All right? You know, this could lead to, again, you know, attacks, more attacks here on American soil, which is bound to happen. All right, attacks will take place on American soil, wars on American soil. All right, because like I mentioned, with this whole all these new war fronts spreading the military too thin, you know, that's gonna be a part of, because things are gonna get so hectic here in America. You know, they're gonna get that green light to the military is gonna get the green light to you know, use lethal force, deadly force. But for the most part, the American military is not going to fully cooperate, because, you know, these are the mothers, fathers, uncles, aunties, friends, and so on and so forth. So they're not going to be up to par. So this is why, for the most part, they're going to get shipped out, and that's going to lead way to, hey, someone's going to have to, you know, police the streets of Babylon, especially when all the chaos breaks out, anarchy and things of that nature. You know, so. Like I said, man, you know, I seen this initially made me, you know, think going into these points, and which is why I just so happen to look up what could happen if he takes back Afghanistan. So, hey, you know, Lord willing, sooner than soon. All right, you know, hey, how about Shema Shah put the spirit on these devils to continue to do what they can do already? Because I'm gonna grab this. Isaiah 42. Here it is. This man, Trump, promised peace. All right, things are going to get cheaper, things of that nature, but he just totally lied. All right, he's been nothing. He's been on a damn war front, which is why a lot of us believe that, hey, he could very well, Lord willing, be that the cruel Lord spoken about in Isaiah 19. But ultimately, it's Yahweh Shema Shai. Isaiah 19, Isaiah 42 and 13. The Lord shall go forth as a mighty man. He shall stir up jealousy like a man of war. He shall cry, yea, roar. He shall prevail against his enemies. So, again, the script is going to how, as I just read one, Yahweh Shema Shai, he's stirring up the minds of these different kings, leaders, and gearing them all towards war, ultimately to fulfill the Lord's will. All right, so I just thought this was rather interesting. Again, it could be something, could be nothing, but as watchmen, we stay on our watch and just wait. All right, Lord willing, this was edifying. All praises to you, Yahweh Shema Shai. Shalom to you, hopefully elect.